Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to give you a brief presentation on how you might approach your report that is due for the final project for the marketing research class, BSAD 411. So let's jump in. As you know from the description of the assignment, you are to write a marketing research report. You are to act as the market research company, and you can pick a fun name for the company, be creative. But you are putting together the report, assuming that you are the company that actually did the research. In this case, it was profile marketing research, but you can name it whatever you want. So you're putting together a report, not a research paper. You're putting together a report that you would then give to the board of directors for Northwood Business District. So let's jump in. Just make sure you understand that this is each of these bullets here. All of these bullets should have an associated page in your report. So PowerPoint's interesting because each page is separated, so it doesn't just continue like it does in Word. So each one will have its own page. So main reason will have its own page, retail establishments will have its own page, how much time spent will have its own page. Now you may be saying, oh my God, there's a lot of white space. White space is okay, but the key for you is to make sure that you're writing about what you're showing. So on each page, you should have numbers, either in a chart, such as a pie chart or a bar chart, or you can just have a table. You know, it's up to you. If you are going to show trend, then you might want to show it as a table, because you'll be able to show the numbers for 2009, 2008, 2007. Now, you don't have to always show the trend in a table. You could always give the 2009 number and then just talk about how it compares to 2008, 2007. And I'll show you here in a minute what I mean. But just remember that each of these bullets should have a corresponding page. Make sure that you complete the assignment in its entirety. And in order to do that, you must have all the sections that I listed in the assignment. So don't lose points unnecessarily, right? I will take off points if you don't do it right, because I gave you exactly how the assignment's supposed to go, okay? So I will now get off my soapbox and jump into this. So how could some of these look? So what I did is I took some, I wrote up how some of them could look. Now, I didn't give you the responses I would give to it. I just showed you, I'm just going to show you how the data could be presented. I'll leave it up to you to how you would write about it. But here I'm just going to show you how you might present some of the data, okay? So let's jump in. One of the things that you're supposed to talk about is visitation. If the person was a first-time visitor or a repeat visitor. In this one, I showed it to you as a trend. Let me just get rid of these so you can just see it bigger, okay? So first-time visitor, repeat visitor. So you can look to see if there's any changes, right, to that. So you can see no statistically different changes, right? So you can say there's been no change to that. Primary reason, now these would be on separate pages, you understand, right? Okay, because it's supposed to, each one has its own page. Primary reason for visit, okay, this is the top 5 mentions. You probably would want to give more than the top 5. I would say top 20 would be better, maybe top 10, do top 10. So now we can look at this. So you could have this as primary reason for a visit. You can't do it as a pie chart. And the reason why you can't do it as a pie chart is going to add up to more than 100%. Well, why is that? Well, it's going to add up to more than 100% because people are allowed. Oh, no, I'm sorry, this one was not. This was primary visit. So it should add up to 100%. So we're good. You could do this as a pie chart. If the question allowed for multiple responses, then you couldn't do it as a pie chart, right, because then it would add up to more than 100%. I probably would not show this as a pie chart. I would show this as a bar chart. But here you can see that there is a difference. Tina's Grocery has grown in importance, right, in why people are visiting. So it went from 3% to 14% to 22%. And we know that 22 is statistically different between in 2009 than 2008 or 2007 because the B and C, right? So they did just like the detailed tabulations, right, B and C. So we know that's statistically different than 14 and 3, okay? But there's some other changes as well. So again, you could have this as a bar chart. And what do I mean by bar chart? So what does a bar chart look like? Well, here's a bar chart. This is a bar chart, but this is also it's a stack bar. So let's just keep going here. There we go, bar chart. So this is a bar chart, okay? And again, you would want to show these, each of these separated out, because some of these are specific questions or bullets that I've asked you to give me. But I just want to show you what some charts could look like, okay? Make sure the charts look nice. Sometimes I get these things and the labels are overlapping and the chart's all funny. You wouldn't give that to a client. Assume I'm your client, okay? So, but this is how you could show it as a bar chart, okay? So if I was showing this, I'd have just this on the page, the one that says how travel to Northwood Village Business District, okay? And then I would show the bars. Now, you could show this trend with these bars as well, right? So you could have the green bars could be 2009, and then you could have another bar right next to each of these categories that shows 2008, and then that shows 2007. So you'd have like green and then yellow and then blue. And then there would be a little legend here that told you what the green, yellow, and blue meant, okay? Or you can just show it like this and just write about it. So if I was doing this one, I would say that the majority of people, right, because the majority is 50%, the majority of folks took a car. But a quarter of the folks also, but a quarter of the people that came to the business district walked. So you could say the biggest way traveled was car. The secondary way of traveling was either bike or a walk or bike. And then you would tell them that whether or not it was different. So trend, was it different from 2008 and 2007? And then were there any segment difference? Were people who owned more likely to, let's say, walk than the people that rented? Were the people that had a job more likely to take a car than the people who weren't employed? Were the people that had children more likely to take a car than walk? So those are the things that I would expect on each page for each one, okay? So now let's keep going. So that's a bar chart. So how else could you show it? Well, you could also show it as a pie chart. So this happens to be the main source of news or information in total, okay? So this is how people found out about, this is how people get their information, okay? So, and again, the percentages will add up to 100%, so you can use a bar chart. So here, I would be writing at the top here, it would be information above it, and it would say things like roughly half of the folks' main source of news comes from television. 24% or just under a quarter come from radio. Okay, so why is that important? I would expect that if you were going to do something like this, at the top you would say, if you're trying to attract more people like the people that are already coming, you should be thinking about TV, local TV, because 50% of the people say they get their news from TV, or maybe radio. Probably not so much investing in the Post or on the internet or word of mouth, unless you know all their friends. So that's why that is important, okay? So you'd be telling them, look, if you're trying to get more people to come, TV is probably a good way to go. Secondary is radio. Radio costs a heck of a lot less than TV, but they would have to make that decision, okay? So let's go back up here. Now here's a fun one. One of the ones that one of the questions was talking about repeat visitors and then how they're visiting, right? So we have repeat visitors at 94%. So this is how you could show just the total and then show something that's related. So if you're a repeat visitor, right, then you go to this chart and then you can see how the repeat visitors were responding. Okay, so that's how you can put two ideas together. Okay. Now here's another way you might want to look at things. So remember I said that you might want to do top 20 mentions. I probably wouldn't do that. Again, I would probably do top 10 because you can see it kind of drops off. You probably even do top 5, but do top 10 here because there might be some interesting things that you might want to show. So remember before I showed you a different kind of bar chart. This one is a horizontal bar chart as opposed to a vertical chart. So this is just a different way of showing it. Generally speaking, you would show it this way if you've got really long categories here, which is, you know, why they're showing it this way. Makes it easier to show, okay? So how might you show how people feel, the attitudes towards Northwood Village? Well, there's a lot of words in that, okay? So probably what you might want to do is do something like this, because it's easier to show, and also you could show the trend here too. And so the total is actually 2009. You might want to show 2008, 2007 because you're doing it as a chart. I would probably do it that way. It's up to you. Doing this as a bar chart might get really crowded. That's why this one is shown as a table. But again, what you would want to do here is you want to explain what this says, right? They were most likely to be positive, right, rather than negative. So the first thing you're going to talk about is how do they feel? Well, the majority of the folks said something positive when they described the Northwood Village District, okay? If someone was to say to them, well, explain what this Northwood Village Business District is, and they would 72% of them would say something positive. So they would either say something about the atmosphere, or they would say something about the growing business, and then variety. There's a good variety in selection. Okay, so 8%, 14%, 60%. Okay, now there is overlap here. Remember what I told you, that there's you can't show a pie chart if it's more than 100%, and this is more than 100% because people could give them whatever they wanted to say. Remember, this is a coded response, and I went through that in the detailed tabulations, okay? But again, what I would expect here is to know what the positive mentions were and the negative mentions, because that's how they feel, and then pick out some of the really high ones, which is atmosphere, and maybe you talk about it's very nice, nice atmosphere, great place, magnificent, quaint, peaceful, calm. Okay, because those were the top ones for that. And then for miscellaneous, I wouldn't say miscellaneous, I would just say growing your business, growth potential. And then the variety and selection, you can use that. But again, just kind of calling out some of the high ones. And then if you were to talk about some things to fix, right, in your executive summary, you might want to say that some of the folks thought that they need more security and that business is slow. Okay, so that might be some things you point out, which were the negatives. Okay. So now let's jump down to this stack bar. This is the attribute ratings, and this is one of the ones that you should be putting on your, you should have. Now, the way that this is shown, it's 9, 10, which is I told you what you need. It's top 2 box, right? So it's 9, 10. Here it's showing the people that said 9 and people said 10. When you write about this, if you do it this way, that's great. I'd love to see that. Now, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. You can just use these numbers, 77, 56, 54, just show one bar. Totally fine. But what you do need to do is explain the ratings. So what I would expect is that Northwood Village Business District received the highest ratings for ease of finding your way around, traffic control and access, store and restaurant signage, safety during the day, and quality of restaurants, okay, because that's all above 50% gave it a 9 or 10 or are raving fans, right? And then what you might want to say is the lowest scores, right? Special events and entertainment received the lowest 9, 10 scores. And then what you also need to say, have these changed? So then you would need to look at the trend banner to say, have any of these changed meaningfully? And you would write about that above this chart, okay? If ease of finding your way has been going up consistently or down, let's say, consistently, you need to write about that. If it's statistically different from a particular year, write about that. If people, owners or renters, or employed, non-employed presence of children, if there's any differences there, you need to write about it. Now, remember from the banners, the detailed tabulations video, I told you that there is a summary page in your banner, in your detailed tabulations. Find the summary page, and you'll know because at the top it's going to say top 2 box of ratings, okay? So this is a really nice chart, but again, remember, you got to have the chart or the table, and then you write about it above. Now, I took out the writing because I didn't want you to see what I would have said about it, but it would have been above this box, okay? So all in the top, right above the chart, is where you're going to write about this. You're going to tell the person who's reading the report exactly what happened with the data, okay? So likelihood to visit in the future, okay? This is a nice one because this says, okay, what are the top 2 boxes? It kind of shows the ratings. So visually people can see nobody gave them a 1 or 2, or maybe one person gave them a 1, one person gave them a 2. So that hash mark means that it's not really 0, because 0 means absolutely nobody gave that answer category. So maybe one person is, but it gave you a 2, and maybe one person gave a 1. They can't really put it as 0, so they just put the hash mark there. But at least this kind of shows the data. I would not show this as a pie chart, even though in theory you could, but you got to show it as a bar chart. And then you also need to say, has it changed over time, and did it change by the segment? Okay. Hopefully you're getting this. Okay. So additional mentions. These are the offerings. May source information. Okay. Now the last thing I did ask you to do is demographics page. So this has all the demographics together. This would be overwhelming in a report if you put it all together. So you will need to break this out into separate pages. You know, you don't have to have each one having its own page, like male, female doesn't need to be its own page, but just be nice to the reader and kind of bundle them in the way it makes sense. And also, you know, so maybe you put household income and education together. Maybe you put, you know, ethnicity and marital status and male, female together. Anything that makes sense to group together, but again, this is way too much to be on a page. So your demographics should be 5 or 6 pages where you just kind of keep them separated, okay? And the last one is just some more demographics so you can see kind of what I'm talking about here. But you do need to explain if there's any differences. Now, this is not something, this is just something that they may need to know, right? So when you do these demographics, you're just kind of stating the facts, ma'am, right? This is exactly the people that we interviewed, right? And this is a convenience survey because they just stood out there and did the interviews. Well, if it's a convenience survey, you know that there could be some biases because of the people that were interviewed. So if there's massive differences on the trend banner for any of these, you should probably report that, okay? So that's what I wanted to show you. If you have any questions about this report, please contact me. My phone number is on the syllabus, and it's also, I've sent it out to you guys many times. So make sure if you have any questions, you call me. Try to make it before April 29th. That would be really helpful, which is when this is due. And again, I put this in the notes to everybody in the announcement, but if you have an A, after your paper is graded, and including all the other work you've done in the class, if you have an A after this paper, you don't take the final. So I would highly recommend that you spend a lot of time on this report. You're getting 2 weeks to do this report, so don't throw it together last minute. Hope this was helpful. Again, call me if you have any questions. Thanks.